Greetings, book lovers everywhere. I'm E-Train and welcome to E-Train Talks. And today, I am lucky enough to have author Heather Clark joining me for the second time. Only this time, she's speaking to me one-on-one about her heartfelt, realistic fiction novel, Lemon Drop Falls, which is Heather's debut middle grade book about 12-year-old Morgan and her journey coping with the heartbreaking loss of her mom and trying to keep her promise to take care of her dad and siblings while dealing with all the ins and outs of tweenism. Lemon Drop Falls is one of my favorite middle grade books ever. I've recommended it to book clubs, fellow writers, and my friends because it's so good. And I'm so glad you brought this story into the world, Heather. And I'm so excited to welcome you to E-Train Talks.
E-Train, thank you so much. You are always so positive and wonderful, and I love the work you do for books and for fiction, and I'm so glad that Lemon Drop Falls was a good read for you.
Well, I'm so glad I had a chance to read it, and you're doing so much as well. I'm so excited to talk about MG Book Party, Lemon Drop Falls, Tween Author Bootcamp, just everything you do, because you do so much.
And too much, possibly. Just kidding. No, do you ever get a little distracted?
Yeah. So I have nothing but good things to say about Lemon Drop Falls. Morgan's story is one filled with devotion and compassion, but the reader also feels the anxiety and worry that Morgan goes through when trying to manage so many emotions and events. I read that you dealt with a serious illness a number of years ago, and your daughter was 11 years old at the time. Will you share how Morgan's story came about and if her story was inspired by your family's experiences?
Yeah, this one's a really personal one. So this is my fourth book that ever went on submission with an agent. So I actually have been working toward publication for a really long time. And it, publication takes its twists and turns, and it's hard to sometimes get through. And after my third book to go on sub did not sell, I was looking for what I was going to write next. And I was sitting actually in a class with Elizabeth Harding, who's a really awesome agent, and she was teaching, and she said, really just write what you know. If you want to connect with people, you got to really write what you know, which of course goes back to like one of my other favorite fictional writers, which is Anne of Green Gables, one of my favorites, but she learned that same hard lesson. So I was sitting there and I thought, well, what do I have in my family that would make a compelling middle grade story? And in 2013, I almost died of a pulmonary embolism, which is the same way that Morgan's mom dies in the book. We were actually at an amusement park and I just about collapsed. We had to go straight to the ER. Anyway, it was pretty scary for a while. And my daughter, who has some pretty serious anxiety, and I don't know if you know much about anxiety, E-Train, but when people have anxiety, they kind of tend to live through things, even if they didn't happen. Like you live through it already, like it's gonna happen, and you live through it like it did happen. And so she was kind of just living through that in her head. And she went to, we went to send her to see her school psychologist at the time. And her school psychologist was this amazing woman, and I will be grateful to her forever. But she was trying to get my daughter to talk about her feelings. And she was like, tell me how you're feeling. And my daughter was like, because in fifth grade, you don't really want to tell your school psychologist like all your deepest feelings, and you're afraid that you'll start crying and it will be emotional and hard. And so her psychologist gave her a lemon drop, had her suck on the lemon drop for a little bit. And then she said, how does that taste? And she was like, well, it was sour at first, but it gets sweet after. And she was like, exactly. That's like hard conversations. That's what we do when we have to talk about hard things. And so that's become a tradition in our family. And so it's the same tradition Morgan's family has in the book. And the tradition is that if you need to talk about something, you just tell your mom you need a lemon drop. It's not even the candy. We don't even always have the candy on hand. But if my kid says lemon drop, I'm like, drop everything. We go straight to my room. We focus. We talk about those hard things. And it's really been the most amazing thing for my kids. So anyway, that is not how the story started, but I decided to write about my daughter's experience and what if I had died, and what if, because I wanted to understand that she would have been okay anyway, that she would be able to process it and get through it. And so I actually started this book originally. It was my husband taking my 3 kids camping for the first time without me to our favorite spot. And you can see, if I like tweak this a little, see that picture right there? That's Capitol Reef. I took that picture in the campground where this book takes place. It's our favorite spot. And so I just decided to go with things that were very familiar, things that I knew. Eventually the characters grew into their own people and they had their own lives and their own stories. But at the beginning, it was really me just processing how my daughter would have like found a way to be okay again after I was gone. And actually the lemon drops, which is, you know, Morgan's way of talking about her feelings. Once mom's gone, she thinks she doesn't have those anymore. And the lemon drops didn't even come into the book till about draft 7 or 8.
Really?
Yeah. Originally I had a different way for Morgan to talk about her feelings. And finally I was like, I should use this thing from my life. So tons of the things in the book are inspired by my own kids. Some of the words that they said, like, I don't know if you remember when Budge says, let's play Don't Fall to Your Death. That is an actual quote from my actual son on that actual hike. And I was freaking out about it.
I absolutely love your protagonist, Morgan. She loves her family so much and would do anything for them. And family is just one of many meaningful themes in Lemon Drop Falls. So what are some other themes you hope readers will take away from your book?
You know, that's a really good question. I think a big part, it's funny that the lemon drops weren't in there at the beginning, because as a writer, sometimes you just write the story and then you start thinking later, like, what are themes here? What's the takeaway, you know? And in the end, I wondered, how has my character changed? And I really feel like the way that Morgan changes for the most is that she learns that her needs are important, and she learns to communicate those needs, even if the main way that she always could share those needs is gone, right? So one of those things, I feel like in all of my books, every book that I've written and every book that I'm currently planning has some element of a kid finding their voice and learning to tell their own story in their own authentic way, and finding adults and other people who they can trust to receive that story with grace, you know? So I guess that's one theme, I think, is just really finding your own voice and being brave enough to tell your story. And then I guess another theme, like, you know, there's the element of ABC planning in the book, where the mom is like a life coach and she plans like everything down to the last detail. But sometimes our best plans get shattered by the things that happen in our lives. And the idea that even if your biggest plan, your greatest dream gets shattered, there is a new plan A waiting for you. There's another plan. You can find joy even in the hardest of circumstances. So I'd say that's another theme.
Yeah, there's just an endless amounts of amazing themes in Lemon Drop Falls. And I think that the ABC plans, they're very symbolic in a way. Like, and also I love Morgan's mom. Like, she is the best. She is the absolute best mom. Like, she always has a plan. Like, when you have a mom that like takes into account every scenario, you're going to be super happy. And
you know, I actually deliberately wrote Morgan's mom kind of different from myself, because I can be a little scattered. I'm not the type of who's got the plan for everything. But I actually think I was writing my own mother a little bit, right, when I was processing Morgan's mom, just because my mom is really, she always had a good plan. I feel like she always had me. She always, you know, and if I lost her, I feel like it would be similar. So I think in some ways, that's how I process that.
So one thing that I really picked up on that I just absolutely loved in Lemon Drop Falls, well, there were a lot of things I loved, but one that really stood out to me was the way like each chapter kind of, so one chapter, it's in the present, then the next one is in the past, then on. And I've never seen that in any book I've read. So I just want to know, like, kind of how did you really write that in a sense? Like, it seems so smooth.
Oh my gosh, that is super nice of you to say. Kate, so this is an interesting thing. When we're writing for kids, right, we have to strike. Someone is vacuuming outside my door because I have kids. Can you hear it on the podcast?
I can't hear it.
Okay, sorry for the readers and the listeners. Sorry, back to that question. Oh yeah, when we're writing for kids, I'm always tackling hard things, right? Because I believe that kids are going to just tackle a lot of hard things. And in fact, some of those hard things are going to be harder because they are kids than they will ever be later in their life. Some of the hardest things I ever went through were in 7th grade, you know? And so I feel like we have to tackle these hard things, but then we also need this lightness and this wonder and this humor. Yeah. And I'll tell you what happened. So when I first finished this book, E-Train, there was no dual timeline. It was only all Morgan grieving.
Really?
Okay. Until like, honestly, drafts like 8, I think. And what happened was I had tried with my agent. I showed her the book. She said there are good elements, but I just don't think it's a good book, and I think you should leave it. And so actually we parted ways at that time, because she really felt so strongly about it, and I just had this feeling that I could make this book something else. And so I actually like tried to find other agents with it. I queried 100 agents, and
Really?
I did not get a single one who wanted to offer me representation on this book. And so then there used to be a contest called Pitch Wars. And so what happened was this, I was scrolling through the list of books for Pitch Wars and the mentors. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Nicole Pantelikas, or if you have read Planet Earth is Blue, but she is the most amazing author, and her book is so incredible, and it deals with heavy, sorrowful topics. And then there's this light and this hope and this joy. And when I saw her name on the list of mentors, I almost like fell out of my chair. I was like, oh, that girl can fix my book, right? I was like, she can help me. So I applied to Pitch Wars, and you have to apply to a few mentors, but I was just like, please, Nicole. She was the only one who reached back out. And she was like, yeah. And she was like, how do you want to revise this book? And I said, I need a way to bring joy and light into this heavy, sorrowful thing that I've created. And she said, I know how to help you, so I'm going to pick you. So she did. She mentored me. She said, Heather, we need a dual timeline. We need to see middle school. We need to see happy Morgan before mom is gone. We need to get a sense of what Morgan felt like and who she was before. All of that appeared in about a 2-month rewrite, E-Train, and I about died. It was so exhausting. And I also had to cut like 20,000 words at the same time.
Wow.
In order to fit the back in, I had to cut the front, because I couldn't just make it this beast of a book. Anyway, that is such a great question. Writing that was really complicated for me, but what really helped was that I broke the book into these little chunks. It's Julie Berry's an author. I don't know if you've read anything by her, but she's amazing. Anyways, Julie Berry teaches how to revise, and she teaches this one part where you break it into little chunks, and every chunk you have to be able to summarize in one sentence what that chunk does for your story. So I did that. I broke it all into chunks. And then as I was doing my chunk read, I would like go in between each one, and I would be like, what could happen in the past that does this same thing for the past story, and then I added it in. So it was all added later.
Wow. That's such a fun, like just crazy process.
It was crazy. It was really fun.
And you came out on top, and it must have been exhausting. Only in 2 months you did all that.
Well, you know what's funny? So the agent who signed me for Lemon Drop Falls, I had 5 agent offers coming out of Pitch Wars. And the agent I signed with was my dream agent, who I had wanted to be with for like 10 years. And she had already said no on this project.
Really?
And I just wrote her back, and I said, hey, do you want to take another look? It's different now. And within like a week, she's on the phone from England, and she's like, my heart's beating out of my chest. I have to offer you representation. And I'm like crying. It was so amazing. But this is like for every writer, for every kid that wants to write, for every reader who wants to be a writer, don't give up. Like, it's a long journey. It's hard. There's a lot of face punches on the way, but like, you got to tell your story, and you will learn how to tell it better if you care enough, right? And you'll find the right people who will know how to teach you how to do it better.
Well, I love stories, and that's one of my favorites. It's just like, you're like, oh, how do I do this? Ah! And then boom, you have Lemon Drop Falls, you sign with an agent. It's published by Jellyfish Press, Jellyfish Press is amazing.
They're delightful. They were so good to work with. In fact, I had tons of input on the cover, which a lot of people don't have. Yeah. My publicists were amazing. My editor, Mari, was so incredible. It was a really good experience.
Yeah, you braved the sour to taste the sweet.
I did. I'm still braving it. That's what life is, right? That's what we gotta do.
That is definitely what life is. And what compels you to keep writing and reading middle grade books?
I just like kids, and I like their stories. I remember one time talking to Martine Lovett, which, by the way, if you've never read anything by Martine Lovett, she's my hero and one of my major writing idols. You should definitely start with something like Hex Superhero or Keturah and Lord Death if you're feeling deep and beautiful, but it's so beautiful. Anyway, Martine said, I don't care about adults. Adults should already have their stuff together. Kids are figuring out who they are, right? They're just right in the middle of life's biggest adventures. And I feel that so keenly. Also, when did I learn to just be so passionate about reading? When I was a lonely, kind of nerdy, kind of weird kid, right?
Yeah.
Like I learned to take books, escape into them, find empathy in the pages, right? And so that's it, right? I want my readers to get to come and sit down with me and feel like there's a place for you here.
Well, I certainly felt that. So many kids are feeling that with Lemon Drop Falls. Like, this is a story that so many kids, so many middle graders needed to read. And I I can tell that they're sobbing out of their mind, not because the story's sad, but they're tears of joy because they found their book and they connect with the main character and just the whole plot.
Well, I hope there's kids who read this book and think, actually, this was probably my favorite reader response. And I hope I don't cry, but there was a girl who really never talked to her mom about stuff, like just never did that. And apparently she read my book, and then her mom was like, "Where is my kid?" And she went and found her, and she was sitting in a room crying. And she was like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I need to just let me finish this book." So she finished the book. And then a few minutes later, she like got herself together. She went downstairs, she found her mom, and she said, "Can I have a lemon drop?" And she started to tell her mom like all of these things she hadn't told her that she was struggling with in middle school, and the things she was feeling. They're not the same things Morgan was feeling, but she just opened up and they had this huge heart to heart. And the mother reached out to me to just say like, "My kid's talking." And I'm like, okay, job done. Like, I'm happy. I don't need any more. So,
I'm gonna cry.
It was really meaningful.
That's the best review ever of any book, like evoking so many emotions, and like it's just wow.
Well, I just want kids to know like their stories matter. Like the things you're feeling as a kid, sometimes adults invalidate that and sometimes they don't get it. But find those adults who do, right? Find those adults who are going to validate it and going to realize that your experiences are very real. The things my goodness. I mean, I've got kids right now who are just heading into middle school and still in elementary, and one who's headed off to college. So my Morgan is headed off to college this year.
What's one topic you believe should be discussed more in middle grade?
I thought about that question, and I guess what I think is we need the freedom for people to tell their authentic stories, whatever those stories are. So, and I think we're getting there. I think we are growing so much. And like, I know, for example, that you hosted middle grade book chat. I was not able to be there this week, but I know you hosted MG book chat on Twitter this week. And you were talking about Pride Month and about LGBTQ books. And I just feel like every kid needs to be able to see themselves as the hero of a story. Every kid needs to be able to see other people as a hero of the story who don't look like them and don't sound like them, right? So if usually I'm used to reading myself as the hero, have you ever heard about Windows and Mirrors?
I have.
Yeah. So I don't know if our listeners have heard about that very much, or if have you talked about that on your podcast before?
I haven't talked about it on my podcast, but that came up a lot in the middle grade book chat and like every single chat I take part of because it's so important.
Such a big deal, right? But every kid, so books can be a window where you're looking through the book into someone else's lived experience, or they can be a mirror where they're reflecting back your own lived experience. And, Grace Lin, author Grace Lin, told me that where it's really important is that if you have only mirror books, if you only ever see yourself in books, you don't develop empathy. And if you only ever see others in books portrayed as the hero, then you have a hard time with your sense of self and your sense of self-worth. And we just need all of that. So I guess if that's what I would say, like, we are going the right direction, but we did talk a little bit, about how my book has been censored a little bit. Is it okay if I share a little bit about that? So a couple of things that happened to me, it's really strange because I think my book is fairly mainstream as far as like not like political, or you know what I mean? People aren't currently using hot topics, but I've already had to have 2 school visits canceled. The first one ever was canceled because there's a conversation between Morgan and her friend and her mom about needing a well-fitting bra. And the librarian felt that that was inappropriate for children in the 6th grade to read about. And that was concerning to me because I really felt like, and actually the only reason I bring that up with you right now is that you actually mentioned that in your review of the book independently, that was something that was interesting to you, that was part of the teenage experience that felt authentic to you. And And I think that's really great that as a boy, that was not off-putting to you, that's not concerning, right? Because I think boys need to hear about girl experiences and girls need to hear about boy experiences. And I think it's super important that we don't squish out the experiences of others who are different than us, even in such a small way as just our gender, right? But then the other thing that recently had to cancel school visit is that the principal at the school, we had a whole day of visits planned, and the principal came to me the day before and said, you can't mention parental death in your presentation. And I was like, I don't know how to do that because my book is about a parent dying, you know. And she wanted me to use the word like hard things. She wanted me to say like, my character went through difficult things. You might have gone through difficult things, but she wanted me to, even with the kids I was talking to, not be willing to say what one difficult thing was. And my thought is, if there's anything we need, it's difficult things. We need to let the difficult things, the real difficult things in our world, be there and be talked about. And here's the great magic is, if I'm not ready to look through the window of a certain book, I have the freedom to not look through that window yet. Right? I can choose to not, you know, we can all curate our own collections, but I'm super passionate about the idea that kids are way stronger than we give them credit for, that they can tackle very difficult topics, and that whether or not we want to insulate them from that, they are tackling very difficult topics.
Yes.
So I'm a super big advocate of like you having adults you can trust who can help you curate your collection, right? Where you can talk. Do you talk to your parents like about your books that you read?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fantastic.
We sometimes read them together.
I love that. We do a lot of read alouds too. Oh my goodness. Have you read any Frank Cottrell boys, E-Train?
I haven't.
Oh my gosh. I'm begging you to get a copy of Cosmic this week. Also, have that man on your podcast. He is the funniest human being. He is absolutely hilarious. I think we're going to interview him for Middle Grade Book Party, but he said we can. Anyway, he's British. His humor's a little like off of what you would normally expect from like American humor. My kids die. We're literally reading through his entire collection right now. It's such a good read aloud, but start with Cosmic. I promise you will thank me later.
Well, I just found it on Goodreads, and it looks incredible.
Oh, it's amazing. It's about a kid who's super tall, and so everyone thinks he's the dad, and he takes a whole group of tweens into space, like on a spaceship. Himself.
Yeah. Windows and mirrors, it comes up over and over and over again, and for good reason. Because
I'll tell you what, I just read a mirror book, and I know you're interviewing this author this week, so I'm gonna bring that up. But I just read a book that was a mirror book for me that I needed when I was in elementary school so bad. Starfish.
Yes.
That book, because I was a fat kid, and I had to deal with the fact that I looked different and that I was uncomfortable in my body, that I was kind of ashamed of my body. That book, I cried and cried. Here I am, an adult, and I was like, I feel seen. I feel like I matter. I feel like I have the room, like little Heather has the room to spread out and just be anything she wants to be, and she's enough, right? And that book, I think every middle schooler should read that book, regardless of whether they've ever dealt with the issues that the main character has dealt with. Every middle schooler, it's Ellie, I think, is the main character in that book, but every middle schooler should read that book, because the idea of how we should treat each other and how we deserve to be treated and how we should treat ourselves, so powerful. So powerful.
I just interviewed Lisa Phipps last week, and it was such an incredible experience. Lisa is the best. She was the first person to really ever say anything about my book reviews. I've been doing them for like a couple months, and then
I love her. I love her.
Thanks to a book club, Lisa saw one of my book reviews, and she put it in her Instagram story, and I was like, I thought I was just making book reviews for a school project. I can kind of like make this a job in a sense. Of course, I'm not making money, but
yes,
I can.
You can.
Yeah. And now, everybody, this is a question that I've been waiting to ask, because I'm super excited to ask it. It's always a good time to promote literacy and be a literacy advocate. So, Heather, I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your podcast, Middle Grade Book Party, and your nonprofit, which I talked about in a previous episode on E-Train Talks, Tween Author Boot Camp!
Woo, Tween Author Boot Camp! Okay, awesome. Well, we'll go with MG Book Party first. MG Book Party actually is the way that I got involved with Tween Author Boot Camp. So it's really fun. And actually, we're having you come on Tween Author Boot Camp, and we'll talk about that. But we're having you come in December. And one of the things I want you to talk about is building these connections, right, within this author world. And you have done that so amazingly. I honestly, like, I really can't believe you're just heading into the 6th grade. If that's correct, I'm correct, aren't I?
Yeah, you're correct.
Oh my gosh. So it's amazing what you've done, but really it's also not that hard in this community to start making those connections, because people are delightful in this community.
They are.
So as far as like a literacy effort, so MG Book Party is really just a podcast place where my friend Cheryl and I, she writes the most amazing middle grade books. They're not published yet, but they will be, where we get on and we just talk about middle grade books, about authors, about the writing process, about agents, and we interview different people from the book community, and we just basically throw a party for middle grade books. So yeah, so that's what we do there. And anybody can go find us. If you just search MG Book Party or go to mgbookparty.com, you can find that podcast and subscribe. We've got some really great people coming up. We've got Rebecca Stead coming up in the next couple of weeks, Grace Lynn, May Respicio. Anyway, we've had a lot of fun interviewing people. But my special passion project right now is Tween Author Bootcamp, which I'm so excited about. And that's actually, I just got involved with them. This company, this nonprofit has been going for about 12 years, I think, but I just came on board in March. So I just got involved very recently as the director of Tween Author Bootcamp, and we're building programming for both local here in Utah where I live, and then nationally. So we run a children's writing conference for children ages 9 through 12, can come to the writing conference and learn from favorite authors. Our first one that we're doing post-COVID is happening October 25th, and there will be a virtual option. So anybody who wants to like go can sign up, and it's like $15 for the virtual conference. So there's and then we scholarship, I think on the virtual conference, we scholarship 50% of kids from Title I schools. Because of course the goal, right, is not just to find people who already have tons of literacy options. The goal is to like find kids who maybe don't have all of the book options yet, and could discover in this whole new world. Okay, so example, I always thought I was completely unathletic, which, you know, if you think you're unathletic, you probably are, because you don't do sports, right? So I was like, I'm not athletic, but a lot of it has to do with opportunity. And I feel the same way about books and readers. You can talk to certain kids and they'll just be like, oh, I'm not a reader. And I think that's just like a confidence that might be missing, or just a piece that they might never have opened up, that new skill, that new side of things. So that's really our goal, is to take kids that are already on fire and want to write and help them just grow their skills, connect with really cool authors, and get better. And then also our other goal is to help kids who maybe haven't ever thought that they were readers or writers to get excited about it. So we're actually working with some rural librarians right now to try and get kids who are kind of out in the boonies and like don't have as much access to books and libraries, to get them involved. And anyway, we're hosting a second conference next April in Logan. We're partnering with Utah State University to do that one, and getting like teacher education students involved. And we're super excited about that. And then also we'll be please go to the website to tweenauthorbootcamp.com/tweens, or just to teenauthorbootcamp.com and click on the tweens tab, and you can sign up for our newsletter. You'll get your first newsletter at the 15th of August. It'll be like a back to school celebration of middle grade books. And then starting in September, we'll be featuring an author every single month, starting with Jennifer A. Nielsen, who I know you have also interviewed, E-Train, but we'll be starting with her, and we'll be doing giveaways. The author will be writing a writing lesson with a writing prompt. And then later that month, there will be a free webinar that everybody can attend. That's going to be, and that content will stay available for free long-term.
Now, my next question is one that I'm super excited, like really, really excited to ask, because I am beyond curious. Do you have any writing projects in the works, or is there a topic that you would love to write about, whether you do or don't publish a book about? Just like, do you have any projects in the works, and what is a topic that you'd love to write about?
Oh my gosh, I do. I have like 3 right now, but I'll just talk about the 2 middle grade ones. So the one middle grade that I'm almost finished right now is called Find Me Here on Earth. And it's about a young boy whose mother has leukemia, and he has germophobia, OCD. And his parents, because it's his second bout with leukemia, they know that that's what triggered his OCD the first time. And so they send him away for the summer while she does her chemo treatments to his Aunt Ruth's farm. He doesn't know his Aunt Ruth, and she lives next door to this family of like crazy farm children who are unschooled, and they make him like, they turn him into their friend because they don't have anybody else out there, you know, right by them. So it triggers all of his OCD points instead of actually helping him relax. But they are also obsessed with aliens, and they want to contact aliens, and they believe that aliens are coming. And then in the middle of the book, when a crop circle appears like 2 farms over, and he goes and looks at it, it's so precise, he knows no human could have created it, not even him with his OCD. And so he thinks, I guess, like, he's been avoiding talking about aliens, but now he's like, hey, if they exist, and if they have the technology to do this, what if they have the technology to heal my mom? So he decides he's going to try to make contact with the aliens in order to see if he can find a cure for his mom's cancer.
I want to read that. And my mom had cancer, so
you did. You've been through that. Oh my gosh.
So it's a book that'll be really close to my heart, and I love alien books. Like, it's like kind of sci-fi, and also.
So E-Train, I should maybe ask you if you want to be a beta reader for that one. I don't know if you'd be interested.
Yes, I would. I love that. I wanted. Yeah.
It sounds like you've got a lot of connections there. Yeah, and the other one that I'm writing, I have 2 titles in mind for it. Either Nitwits or Unraveled. And this is about a boy whose mother has left their family, and his grandma, who was always, they own a knitting shop. They live above the knitting shop that their grandpa still runs, but grandma has died. She was the knitter. Grandpa has learned to knit. And this boy has ADHD, like some people in my family, including me. And he's got some behavior issues with that. And so when he gets into trouble at school, his grandpa is like, I'll take care of his behavior therapy. I'm going to teach him how to knit. So what winds up happening is that this boy winds up forming a knitting circle for all of the troubled kids at school in middle school. So we've got this circle full of like behavior challenged kids doing knitting. And in addition, his grandma always would knit like with intention. So she'd knit someone a sweater that was meant to comfort. And there's almost like a magical quality to like the things that she would knit. And he learns that like, if you knit with intention, so he starts knitting socks. And the way he first meets the first bully boy who joins his group is he knits that boy a pair of socks intended to make him go away forever. Well, it takes the boy on a vacation, but the socks come back. So anyway, and he decides to knit the perfect pair of socks that if he can mail it to his mom, will bring her home. So anyway, there's kind of 2 things going on there with that. So
if you were trapped on a deserted island and could only bring 1 book, I know this is going to be a really tough question, but what book would it be and why?
So I'm going to say The Penderwicks. Have you read The Penderwicks by Jean Birdsall?
I haven't.
So I thought it was going to be so boring. My mother-in-law gave it to me as a gift, and I was like, a book about kids and a rabbit. Like, there's like bunnies and dogs and kids, and it looked boring to me. And it turns out it was like my favorite middle grade book of all time. And she's written 5 books in the series. They are absolutely exquisite, and it's just a family doing very normal, mundane things in their family way, and yet the stakes feel so high. And the kids are so adorable and fun. And she's the reason I write middle grade contemporary books, because I just could not get enough of the Penderwicks series, especially book 4. If you need to cry, book 4 is going to get you. But all of those books are just absolutely beautiful.
And now I'm so sad because it's time for the final question. The question I ask every single one of my guests. If you could be or meet any literary character, fictional or real, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. That is the hardest question. Oh, you already asked me, and I should have already been ready to answer. I'm going to say Anne of Green Gables, because I would really like to tell that crazy, clearly ADHD-ridden, inspiringly creative person. I would really like to tell her how much I dreamed about being her and wanting to be an author because of what she wanted to do. Her fantasy for writing was so real and visceral for me as a kid. And so I think that's probably who I'd want to read.
Well, I need to read Anne of Green Gables because so many authors have said that they want to be or meet Anne Shirley. And I surely need to read Anne of Green Gables. And I have to tell my mom. I know that her sister is a really big fan, and we watched the TV show because we heard really good things about it. So I can't wait to read the book.
The movies with Megan Follows are the absolute best. So if you want to watch the real ones, that's the real one.
Okay, and of Green Gables. I cannot wait to get my hands on a copy. And just thank you so much for sharing your writing journey with us today, Heather.
Thanks.
I know that
okay.
everybody is like, I can see them through the camera. I'm watching you. They're like, their jaws are just like, you
are so nice. Oh my goodness. I seriously think we need to do another podcast. Well, when you come on our webinar, when you come on our tween webinar, I want to hear all about you and about your writing and about the things that you're working on, because you are doing such amazing work for literacy, for the book community, for openness, for inclusivity. I'm just like super proud of you. I keep telling you, I want to like tell your parents how awesome you are, but I'm sure they know.
And my mom, I should have let her know that she's not very prepared. I don't know if she is. I think she might barge in like at a random time. She did that for Lisa Phipps and say, "Oh my gosh, you're amazing." I have a feeling she's gonna do that for you, although no promises. And just everybody, you absolutely, positively, you need to get your hands on a copy of Lemon Drop Falls. You need to check out mgbookparty.com to learn more about the MG Book Party interviews and just how they celebrate books and have some really good parties. And I want to be invited to those middle grade book parties, because all middle grade books deserve to just have a big fun bash about them. We're just gonna have some popcorn, like the author's gonna come, like they're like, it's just I don't know, like, and you need to check out you need to check out Tween Author Bootcamp. Just go to teenauthorbootcamp.com/tweens. You're going to learn a lot about what they're up to, and check out the webinar in December. Check out just the whole event in October. They have so much going on. It's just phenomenal what they're doing to help teens and tweens.
And just wait for summer camp next summer. We already have 3 authors on board. We already have Margaret Peterson Haddix, Jasmine Warga, and Gary D. Schmidt as our authors, and there will be opportunities for close intensives for kid writers to learn to write from them. So,
well, I've heard it's going to be a great experience, everybody. Yeah. Like, I don't have any other words I can say. Like, it's going to be the greatest time of your life, and you're going to learn so much. And I know that in 20 years from now, after going to that summer event, one of you, maybe all of you, all the kids who attend, you're going to be incredible authors, and you're going to share your stories. And, all your books are going to be dedicated to Heather Clark, who's the founder of Tween Author Bootcamp.
I'm not the founder.
Well, I'm
just along for the ride.
You're just along for the ride, but you're just doing incredible things as the director of Tween Author Bootcamp. I can't wait to see where it goes. Like, it just started this year, I believe.
Yeah, they had run the conference 3 times before COVID, but this is the first time we're expanding the program and bringing back the conference.
Bring it back. And just, there's not much else I can say. Just go to all these websites. Links are in the description, because I'm talking super fast because I'm so enthusiastic. If you didn't catch, just go to the description, and you'll also learn more about a special giveaway of a bunch of Heather Clark's Lemon Drop Falls books. They're going to be ebooks. The link's in the description. And just go to Jellyfish Press for more information on Twitter. And I know that Heather Clark is also going to be involved. Everybody, the whole crew is going to be involved, and it's going to be a fun time. You're going to love Lemon Drop Falls, everybody. Stay safe, keep reading, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Thanks, Yicheng. Bye.